Let's build.
So I always looked at Rothschild as the titular head of the Jewish community, and anything any of the other ones did, it was only because he said so. That's right. So when you go to talk about the devil with them over Jewish relations, you say, let me start with Baron de Rothschild.
The great Steve Coakley, a gentleman in my pre-internet college days. I had the internet, but the internet wasn't what you see now. But Steve was amazing researcher, amazing speaker, and some of the things he was talking about back in the days, smart people like me used to go, come on, man, so that we fit in our nice little neoliberal slots and keep this money coming. You tell yourself, nah, everything Steve was talking about was conspiracy. And then they got the Epstein. Now after Jeffrey Epstein, nothing is a conspiracy anymore.
He ain't even the first generation of the granddaddy Rothschild, but he's just manifest in the late 1800s in England, who shows up on the docket of Assistant Cecil Rhodes to colonize Azania. So we start there with the top daddy manifesting of the Jewish community, who shows up on the docket of Assistant Cecil Rhodes to colonize Azania. So we start there.
So you see it's the usual suspects of the time. He's talking about Cecil Rhodes, and the decision to ride with Cecil Rhodes over riding with their Jewish brother, and how this business has been done for 2 centuries now. And it's amazing, same players, same names, and you're probably saying, well, what does that have to do with Jeffrey Epstein? Well, Jeffrey Epstein admits to working for only one group of people, and that's the Rothschilds. And could he have been being sarcastic, facetious? Doesn't look like it. You look at his actions, you look at what empowered him. This is an illiterate from Staten Island. He barely can spell, he barely can read. Somehow he would hurdle obstacles easily, teaching at the Dalton School with no college degree, showing up and working at some of the biggest investment banks and not really having a track record, but somehow still finding some kind of way to infiltrate. You know, the man was accused of pedophilia and was hanging out with the former Israeli prime minister. It's clear what he was, but the shocking thing, the thing that I want to get through to you today about Epstein and Africa. I'm gonna let the elder, the ancestor, speak for a little bit, and we'll bring it back. We'll show how this talk is probably 20 years old. It'll show us how something like what we're seeing with the Epstein documents being released, 3 million, 4 million pages of this guy's emails and things found on hard drives, and you could tell what it was, but let me let Mr. Coakley.
So we start there with the top daddy manifesting of the Jewish community, Rothschild. Rothschild wanted to assist Cecil Rhodes in amalgamating the gold and diamonds in South Africa because Cecil Rhodes could give him something that he wanted. There was a Jewish guy there in South Africa named Bernie Bonato. He was the #1 competitor to Cecil Rhodes for eating up and buying all of the wealth of the diamonds and the gold. A Jewish man named Alfred Bett took Rhodes to England and met him with Rothschild, and there Rothschild decided to help the Anglo and not the Jewish man. Why did he not help the other Jewish guy and side with Cecil Rhodes? Because the other Jewish guy, Bernie Bonato, had no power in England. And because he had no power in England, if Rothschild assisted him, all he would have was more money. He needed something that money couldn't buy. He needed to start a state. And he needed a state because the people who were claiming that they were waiting for a Messiah had a meeting one day and said, man, by what year, Rabbi, do you think that the Messiah is going to come and lead us to the promised land? You know, wherever we're supposed to go, it's the Messiah who's supposed to lead us there. He said, well, I need to sit you down, my great great-great-grandson.
It's incredible how mythology will motivate a group of people who usually don't agree on anything. But the mythology is so strong, like that even atheist Jews will tell you that God told them the land belongs to them. But you look at this process, you read how people were talking in that time. It was about having a land, not having the land. The land part, became what it was. But this is important to understand why men like Jeffrey Epstein exist and what that means to Africa.
Son, and tell you the story about how you got in this position. The story starts way up in the Caucasian mountains, where we met with some people on the other side who told us a story about the chosen people. We mimicked the story, but the story really wasn't about us, it was about them. So we came down the hill and repeated the story to the people who would hear it, and as long as the real one didn't come across the mountain, no one ever knew the difference. In fact, we were known then as the Khazarians. He said, son, there's no Messiah gonna come free us. That movie Exodus and all that other stuff, that Charlton Heston and all that, said, we lied, son of son of son. And son says, Rabbi, what we gonna do? Rabbi says, well, we're gonna shift our strategy and we're gonna no longer wait on a Messiah. We're gonna go out and get some of these damn politicians to recognize us as the chosen people. You just hold on. Our man Rothschild got a deal working with Rhodes where he's going to get his buddy Lord Balfour to declare that the British government would not look unfavorably upon us finding a state in a land where people already live. He said, well, what's the state called? Said, well, we're still debating it. We know if we're chosen, we need to be in Uganda, but I think we may pull up short and come over here to this other area we'll rename the Middle East. And this is Palestine, they call it now. So he said, but you're right, Chief. If we are the chosen people, we're going to have to go to Ethiopia. He said, we won't last long there now, but somewhere around 93, we'll get control of Ethiopia. After we pull out all the so-called Falashas and take them to another land, then we'll move in and starve the population and take control of that country first. Yeah. I said it, brother. That's the truth. That's the truth. And we'll do it, just we have to wait 100 years. This is about 1893. So Theodore Herzl, who is the father of political Zionism, goes to the Jewish wealthy and finally finds a friend in Rothschild who will finance his thought about a Jewish state. Herzl, in fact, himself called himself an anti-Semite. He wasn't into the Jewish thing. He was an actor. Looks like actors do a lot of political things. But Rothschild said, you stay over in the bullpen, Herzl. I got a deal working with Cecil Rhodes. Soon as I get this deal hooked, I want you to go over there. In fact, I tell you what, in the meantime, why don't y'all go over there and have a meeting? He said, what do we call it? He said, well, go get the 24 elders. They'll tell you what to do. And there became the meeting you know as the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. Zion is political or spiritual. These deviants that we're attacking are the political Zionists. They understand that the Creator has no place for what they're talking. So they are a political manifestation. Politics is about compromise, not about morality. That's why you could find safe haven in a politician with your religion. I don't believe in any religion that went to the Caesar and asked for tax-exempt status. Okay, think about it. You done went to the devil and asked for the right to work for God? Listen, you'll know when it's right, when it doesn't seek easement from Caesar.
What did Herzl want to go ahead and do when he wanted to have the idea of this state, get around to his people? He wrote a book, not this book. I wrote this book. This Leave, Operationalizing a Pan-African State, right? This book, and I'm sure many others, will start to talk about how Africans see themselves and see their role into the future of Africa. It's not what we're going to talk about now. But that's what they did. They created a mindset. They created a way of thinking that started with this guy, and it became Zionism. But they can't. They pull this out of thin air. They made it up, and Rothschild funded it.
As soon as I get this deal hooked, I want you to go over there. In fact, I tell you what, in the meantime, why don't y'all go over there and have a meeting? He said, what do we call it? He said, well, go get the 24 elders. They'll tell you what to do. And there became the meeting you know as the protocols of the learned elders of Zion.
Now, it doesn't matter if I believe in these things. I don't, honestly. What I have to know and where I have to operate with these things, like especially when you're confronted with the truth in the way that it was with this Jeffrey Epstein thing, right? You're seeing for the first time, maybe not for the first time, but it's never been this intense. It's never been this disrespectful. The people that we're asking to govern are irresponsible. You're asking guys like Cash Patel to go against minds like Robert Maxwell. Like, well, he would never. Robert Maxwell is long past, but you have to understand how clever these organizations are. The way that they think long term, it makes it feel like prophecy when you start to see the things culminate and flourish. These are their ideas blooming. Robert Maxwell, right? Important to talk about him. He was honored as Israel's greatest super spy. He was a rich, lived a lavish lifestyle, pumped what's called hasbara or propaganda into his magazines and newspapers. A generation of people completely just brainwashed by this dude. And while he's holding clandestine meetings, he's the original Jeffrey Epstein. And his daughter would eventually, and I don't mean to sound unserious, but from everything that I know about the quote-unquote pimp game, she was a bottom bitch. She recruited, she handled them, she was the manager. This Epstein thing is not complicated. It's revealed on its own that there was business being done in Somaliland to make them do things against the interest of the country, of what they made Somaliland in the first place. And they were just handing over the proceeds. And here it is, there's footage of him explaining how he does it. The insanity of Africans not preparing for this will boggle my mind forever. I don't understand how the docility of blacks seeing everything that's happening, the ice in the streets, $38 trillion in debt, which I love to bring up because people love to tell me capitalism is the light and the way. But the country that has every single advantage, the country that can cheat, that can change the rules at any time, is $38 trillion in debt. How do you tell me that capitalism works in the hand of the Pope of capitalism, Donald Trump, and all of these bishops of capitalism that have come together to formulate this strategy? And what do you have? Disaster. You have disaster. And why? Because there's a shadow government created by guys like Robert Maxwell, and that energy flows into guys like Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey was a stand-in. Jeffrey, stand-in is the wrong word. He inherited that portfolio. And all of a sudden, the guy lands on the scene like the Great Gatsby, and he owns the most expensive piece of property, residential property rather, in Manhattan. How? Right. The email shows that he works for Rothschild. He had a company by the name of Baal. Right? You've heard about that, I'm sure. Baal is almost, some would say, the actual God of Israel. I'm not here to explain that to you guys. But these things have morphed into the supernatural. How do you motivate people? You've got to make them believe in your mythology. And a mythology, right, starting with Theodore Herzl, I believe it's what they were doing is the continuation of something that is it a conspiracy when it's done out in the open? I don't know, but they're pulling the levers of power, and they're using the most base parts of human existence, and they almost had to create a creature, a gollum, right, a soulless creature capable of doing anything, which is what you have in Jeffrey Epstein. And in his emails, this gollum, this Baal worshipping gollum who has no kuf, no breaks, no boundaries. He doesn't even feel like he's doing something wrong. And it's not just him. It's it's the lawyer. What is that guy's name? What is his name? Crap. I wasn't gonna go there with him, but if I remember his name, I'll put it in the mix, right? But he would go out there and do the job of a gollum. See Bill Gates. He was ruthless with Bill Gates. He told Bill Gates' wife that he found that Bill asked him for antibiotics so that he could sneak it into his wife's food or drink, and when he sneaks it into his wife's food or drink, it would clear up diseases he caught on a tryst with your boy Jeffrey Epstein. Do you understand how foul that is? How just gross of a human being you have to be? You're the richest man in the world, and you need this guy to set you up? You're the richest man in the world, and this is how you operate. People like Robert Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, right? These guys, they're not human. They're golems. They're shaped out of clay, and they don't have parents. They don't have families. They just go out there and just do the deed that the rabbis or whoever, I don't know, the wizards who make these. Sometimes, my dear Africans, we'll start to make a mythology up just to explain the horrid things that we're about to do, just to manufacture consent, like the Baal thing. Like, what makes a human being become such a predator of children like that? How do you create a Jeffrey Epstein? It has to be something beyond that. And then you have all these things that were conspiracies in the 1990s and 80s that are now, you look at it post this 3 million page dump that we're just starting to even sift through. They dropped so much of it with so much stuff going on in the world. We might be at war as a globe next week. We don't know. What we know is these people never looked at us as human. When they come to Africa, it's transactional, and they know what to do to show the non-profit organizations, the NGOs as well, the non-governmental organizations. They look like they're coming for philanthropy. They're not. This doesn't just happen in Africa. They're talking about Charlie Kirk's wife was snatching kids in Bosnia. You understand why I advocate for pan-Africanism the way that I do? If there is no homeland that is big and powerful enough, things like this is always capable. They just was taking Turkish girls by the container load and selling them in the early 80s and then to the early 90s. It was always this thing about Ethiopian children. And now I look back at it, and after reading these emails, they were creating a kidnapping service for Ethiopian children. What saved them was that their churches wouldn't go along with it. The sincerity of the churches surprised them. It surprised them. Africa, we've just seen evidence, the unmasking of an evil that runs so deep in this country that I live in, that the threat to Africa needs to be seen with clarity. This Epstein thing, you can't separate the oligarchs from the evil that they produce. The Pan-African state would solve all of this, but at least we would be strong enough to get justice, to get recourse, because there's more evil men like Jeffrey Epstein. There's Eric Prince. There's I forget about the other chosen one who causes all the chaos in the Congo. We don't have to be racist towards anybody. We just have to get our shit together. Africa is too valuable to just give it up. And what would happen if they did take Africa? It would run the batteries of a war machine and an evil like you've never seen before. In my last video, I said that Pan-Africanism would save the world. You should check that out. You go back, if you haven't, you should check out a few of my videos. But the channel that we have here is meant to enlighten on a concept of a form of governance, of an economy, of a currency, of a country, that a united pan-African state would give us peace. But as long as there's men out here like the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world, as long as they exist, we have to fight them. My name is Eve Darbouze, and it's the Pan-African State. And it's the Pan-African product.